I think the topic is very interesting, but we've tried to kind of approach it in a different way. But before I do that, I'll kind of set the context. So it's a very eclectic panel that I've got over here, from a 129-year-old brand to a 20-year-old brand to a 5-year-old brand. And they all have their perspectives on what they're doing with their brand in their category to kind of look at this challenge of measuring audiences across screens, across channels that we have today. But instead of kind of looking at it from a very, from a perspective of saying this is performance and that is digital and this is offline, we are looking at more from what the brand needs today, and hence, what do you kind of take as your primary channel for communication, and how do you measure that? And efficacy are not just driven by on cost per sale or cost per conversion, but there are different metrics that different brands kind of are undertaking today and trying to kind of build a science around it. So we just have about 30 minutes, but I think we'll have some great conversations on this. So I'll start with Shuchi because she is with Idea, and Idea is a brand which is at the cusp. So not purely digital, not purely traditional. So they have outlets and they have retailers where people go and buy their product, but the entire delivery is on the screen. So I would want to ask her what are the kind of things they are doing to combat or to kind of take over this multi-screen environment that's happening today.
Before that, I think as we were discussing earlier, I just want to also set the context to the need for cross-channel management. And I think because various channels have... Hello, can you hear me now? Okay. So I just wanted to also set the context for the need for cross-channel management, and various channels have always existed. We've been discussing this topic only because digital has come into the mix, which I think is unfair, because we've always been measuring the effect of the various channels, whether it is media channels, whether it is the trade channels, on our sales. And traditionally, I think more or less a lot of us have been doing market and media mix modeling and seeing the effect on sales or brand metrics, whatever we individually measure, depending on whether FMCG or consumer good categories. And I think one of the points that I think Rahul made yesterday in his presentation, in the midst of all of this, we forget the role of the creative in the entire mix, and that is a very, very important one. And as we were discussing earlier, there are films that are now being launched on the digital medium, which go on to become viral and have a huge enough viewability on its own, but that's because of the content. So not every film is going to become a hit, and therefore maybe that it needs that push on television and the monies behind television for people to know about that product or brand. At Idea, so yes, apart from modeling, etc., so we'll be looking at traditional media or television largely more from a brand perspective, because it's a service brand. It's a brand which is 24/7. I mean, you're with your mobile throughout the day. And it's also a brand which is low in category, which is low involvement, because you don't think of the service provider only when the network doesn't work and you want to curse the provider. Otherwise, you don't think really, which operator you're talking on. And so therefore, there is a need to be to maintain a top of mind, to maintain that awareness, and that's a role that television plays for us. Digital is where you can convert and measure the last mile conversion, which is essentially the online recharges and leads for the postpaid segment. So that's how we kind of divide between the various channels.
Sure. Before I go to the more traditional ones, I'll jump into the digital ones. So Sai, what's your thought on what you guys are doing?
The way the topic is challenges in cross-channel audience measurement, and at Policy Bazaar, what we have seen is that whenever we do a TV campaign, and it's a given that so these days, just going back a little, these days, it's very difficult to say that when someone a customer journey starts from someone who's watching you on TV to the point of someone who retweets your promotion on Twitter. So there are multiple stages a consumer has to go through, and just attributing which point did give you a maximum amount of which point aided to conversion to the most is a challenge. So that's why what we are discussing. So at least at Policy Bazaar, what we have been able to clearly identify is the fact that there are two mediums which like really work for us, and which and on which we have been able to put clearly been able to put the performance metric, which is TV and digital, of course. So digital, of course, we all know that we are able to establish even till the time the last sale is done. But I'd like to talk about how we are using television as not just for brand building, but also more of a performance marketing. So it's a given that when you do TV, at least for e-commerce brands, what happens is the website traffic increases. So, but if you look at this insight, that around 80% of the people who are watching television these days have mobile phones, smartphones with them right now. So there is clearly this your small screen and your big screen are actually there in front of you when you're consuming television. And while between breaks, people also research say that we will consume social media, we will consume are on WhatsApp, are also on call. So there is a clear linkage that could be built between television and the mobile. Also, what we've seen that when we do TV, there is a surge. There is an immediate increase in the website in our traffic. So when we deep dive into the data, which is a given. So, but when we deep dive into the data, we saw that the mobile traffic increases on a faster rate, on a higher rate than the desktop traffic. So then, and then when we looked at the data, and that's a rich data that we've been able to accumulate. And then we just saw that, and this was happening when we looked at data. We saw that this is happening within 8 minutes of airing of a spot. We are able to see a rise in traffic. So there is clearly a link between these two, and also through television. So we could say that it's just for building brand, but for us it is about within that 8 minute, and then we got all the data from the media agency, and then we looked at we also mapped the cost per spot, and through which we were able to clearly establish the fact that how much inquiries television is able to generate. So in the sense that
so I wanted to ask you on that. What was the actionable insight that this 8-minute thing gave you?
So a huge amount of insight. So for a marketer, there is a limited budget. Okay, so now you need to be prudent how you want to spend that money. So when we did this entire exercise, the confidence on television increased, because we were able to clearly see that we were able to attribute even till the time of cost per lead that we are able to measure from this. So the clear actionables were when we were, say for example, I'll give an example. During a day, we were used to take impact properties, and when impact properties were giving us a rise in traffic, we were able to say that so some of the key impact properties, like maybe a comedy show or Hindi movies, or these channels are really working for us. And with that data, we were able to clearly say that go back and create deals for specifically for that. And reduce the media wastage. So this really helped us to see TV not just as for brand building. Brand building is a given, but as use that as a performance marketing, and build a bridge between the television and mobile, which is the cross-channel challenge that we are facing.
Great. Ashish, your views?
Sure. So. If you look at the topic, right, cross-channel audience measurement, so what really is the crux of why we are discussing this? Eventually, it all boils down to how you allocate your budgets, right? When you look at how do you have X number of spends, how do you look at allocating this? And the gray areas start emerging when you have to make choices between offline and online channels, because that's where there are differences in opinion. Within online, everybody knows how to measure channels, etc. But that's where the gray area comes in. And for us, I think there are a few things which at FreeCharge has worked for us. One is obviously we look at one person making that decision, right? So the moment conflicts of interest come in when there are multiple people taking a call. So we tend to give ownership of this entire piece as to one person, and we have actually eliminated the word offline from our dictionary because there's nothing which is pristinely offline in today's setup. So that's more from a cultural and a people point of view. Second is the concept of at the base of it, any media choice depends on whether it's a reach or a frequency, right? Eventually, in India, as of today as well, with whatever is happening in the digital setup, TV is largely the reach channel, and everybody else is pretty much a frequency builder. And this is a very simplified view, of course, depends on campaign to campaign, but I'm saying at an overall level, when you have to reach a country, right, and everybody pretty much there as a carpet bombing thing, you look at TV as a reach medium, and you look at everything else as frequency. And the way we have started looking at it is that the way you treat niche channels, right, which are whether let's say your English movie or English entertainment, which is a frequency builder, we look at display and video advertising in the same light, right, where it provides another way to add frequency. So earlier, if you were optimizing a plan at 5+ on TV, now we look at TV being optimized at 4+ and the one coming from digital, right? So that's one view that has helped us. And third is digital is extremely important for us when we have to test stuff, right? So traditional is irreversible as a media outlet today, and once you're committed spends, you can't come out of it. But in digital, you can do a lot of experimentation. So we test out stuff on digital, and then let's say we test out six things, and 1 or 2 things which we feel are scalable and within our ROI matrix, we use the other channels to extend that and scale that up.
Thank you. And Sujit, you talked about how you're using your website to kind of capture leads at a retail outlet level. Could you throw some light on that and how you guys are doing that and measuring it?
So I'll talk about our experiences at ICICI Bank. And I'll answer the question at 2 levels. One is how do we look at different media, and second is how do we also look at our different channels within the bank, both offline and online. Different media, our experience has been, to some extent, I'll mirror what Ashish said. Sorry, apologies. I'll mirror that. If you want to do a big bang launch, and we want to build instant reach. So let's say when we wanted to say that we're the first bank which we come to people's residence and open an account at your residence. We wanted to build a reach and an imagery around that. We saw that TV was the best option. And so campaigns like that, always mass media, TV, print has worked for us. However, as a bank, we also need to sell loans and credit cards and accounts on a regular basis. I don't think in terms of business economics it will work for us if we are present on television or print for all 12 months of the year. It will just not make that much sense. So there what we have seen is performance campaigns run on digital and mobile and social media is giving us very good results, and we are able to do it at a cost comparable or lower than the traditional offline. And it's become a regular business channel for us in the last 2 years. So as I said, different media for different purposes. And as marketeers, I think depending on the company and depending on the category where you're working, we'll have to understand what media works for what purpose with what efficiency. That's learning one. Second thing, what we're trying to do is broaden the definition of media. Because as you all will be customers of some bank or the other. So you come and interact with the bank in the branch, you come to the website, you come to the ATM, and you could also be calling up the call center, and you could also be using the mobile app. So then the challenge becomes, how are we able to, through a big data project, how are we able to get all the interactions together, get the insights, and then understand at which point of interaction is the customer doing what, and accordingly tailor make your solutions and offer service or a product at the right channel. So it's both for us.
Okay. Deepak, you are a 129-year-old brand. You've seen the shift, the change. How has the brand adopted to that, and how have the measurement metrics changed for you over the years?
Thank you. Well, let me tell you, what you talked of 129-year-old brand. I've also worked in various companies which were 100 years old. To begin with, 2 interesting quotes I would like to use, which when I joined Unilever in 1988 struck me. And one was when I went in 80s in a sales route, the salesman, you know, who's right at the bottom of the pyramid in selling, said, "Jo dikhat hai, wo bikat hai." So, which is typical of what we talk about. But in the same breath, when I heard a comment from Lord Leverhulme, who founded Unilever, he said, "Look, advertising, 50% of my money is wasted. I don't know which 50%. Now, you know, these were two stark statements when I look back at, in last 25, 30 years, how things have evolved. It's amazing. On TV, you have had these programs which were called soap operas because the soap companies were sponsoring it at that point of time. Having said that, when I look at today's context, it's very important that we dissect media into three parts. Some people may have spoken earlier, but it's very important to say you have paid media, owned media, and earned media. And when all three are working, then you will find the success in different parameters. It is not that one is working and the other one is not. And especially in a company which is 129 years old, we've learned a lot from the background. And I just was citing an example to my friend that, you know, we sell a brand called Kinley brand water. We don't have paid media at all in that, okay? But what we did was, as a part of owned media, what we did was we changed the bottle to a Danube bottle, which is a very nice looking bottle, and put it on our distribution as a part of our distribution. Today, it's become the largest brand in branded waters. So sometimes, you know, it may completely go against but you didn't use paid media. No, we didn't. But it was owned media, which Kinley used, and we got 1 million outlets where we use this POS and our own label, which is a part of that. So that's a great learning. Having said that, it's also a fact that when you look at what's happening around the world, you can't say that, world is changing. World is changing. So Facebook page, the largest page of Facebook, which had almost 100 million fans, was Coca-Cola at the same time. But it was not done by us. It was done by a third party. So that's something which we learned as a part of our social media, that look, if you are looking at mediums, whether it's television, whether it is outdoor, social, mobile, others, you need to have an integrated marketing campaign. For doing an integrated marketing campaign, I'll give you two examples. And one example is we were recently trying out how do we have long form advertising on, say, brand Thumbs Up. So many of you may have seen this, but we went into a completely new genre and we said, okay, let's try on Thumbs Up telling the story of strength from an army officer on 15th August. We launched that film of 3 minutes on social media. And we promoted it on social media. On the same day, we've got another platform called Coke Studio, which we do with television, and we do it on social media very well. And that was again a 3-minute song which we launched of Gurdas Maan. Sure. And when I look at the success, I saw that as of this morning, 1.6 million views of Thumbs Up and 3.6 million views of Gurdas Maan. So what does it say? This social media is strong enough, yes, but at the same time, I use television as a medium, which so an integrated campaign is working. For a brand like ours, there's no two ways about that. The fact is, television is clearly important because the reach is very far. But use it with social, and we've started using it. We started telling our premium brands like Coke Zero, we've started using social as one of the great platforms to engage with. Social as a great platform to begin with on e-commerce. We've also tried, Coke being supplied at home through several measures in Gujarat. But again, all these measures take cost. And effective cost, I would say yes. On paper, right now, it's social media because the kind of cost involved, because the cost in the television medium is very expensive, but the reach is today the farthest.
Sure. So what I hear across the panel members is really that TV is very, very important in the journey of a brand. Maybe when you're starting off, it's great to create an impact, create the trust, create credibility, while if you're even an established brand, you need that to kind of ride the wave and all of that. But coupled with that should be, you know, the other media, which could be social, which could be your performance marketing. Now that brings me to my next question, which is a bigger challenge for the marketers sitting here and for all of you, is attribution. So how do you know what you're spending on television is what is getting you the person to come and buy that Coke bottle or get that Idea phone subscription or make that recharge on a free charge? How do you do that? What are the kind of attribution model that you guys are working on? I'll start with you, Ashish.
Sure. So again, a lot of this boils down to it's not an exact science, so a lot of it is art and science and experience as well. One of the models that we look at is, of course, that performance marketing happens year-round, so that's a 12-month-year activity, but a lot of other mass campaigns happen intermittently in between. So we are able to that way isolate the impact of mass media campaigns, which are way more difficult to measure, as we as a panel would agree. Is that we look at the baseline number for the business metric that we're looking at before the campaign started, and we are able to plot that or project it as a linear, if let's say the mass media would not have happened, and what is the actual number that has happened in the campaign period, and we are able to plot a differential area which tells us what is the incremental benefit that has come out of a campaign. Now this can be granulated and be done at a combined level where you're able to get an effectiveness of a mass media campaign. You can do it for a certain channel as well, let's say print, radio, or just TV, and do that. You can do it over 1 day period, you can do it over a week, you can do it over 4 weeks. But I think this is something that while it might not be completely scientific and perfect, it definitely gives us a relative framework on how do we measure channels amongst each other.
Sai, how would you do it for Policy Bazaar?
To be honest, I'm a huge fan of integrated marketing campaigns. When you launch it on Big Bang on television, and when you come out of the house and you see the big hoarding, and then you listen on radio, and you're on social, you're able to see the promoted post and Twitter, so everything working in tandem. But the fact of the matter, at least for us right now, is that it is very, very difficult for us to but I'm not saying it doesn't work. It really works. Integrated communication has been there, will be there, and is going to will continue. But at least for us, as of now, we have a limited. We have to work within a budget. And as of now, what we are able to clearly do is being able to define a performance matrix for at least 2 channels that we have complete faith on, which is television and digital. And though we have done other mediums, we've touched upon other mediums, but we are not able to, clearly, and to be fair to radio and other mediums, as Ashish had mentioned it, every medium has a role. But we as a brand are right now not able to, put a number to it, and we have to work within a budget. So we are able to clearly establish the performance of television till the inquiries are being built, and for digital. So as of now, what I'm trying to say is that if I have a limited budget, then I would rather focus on mediums which is actually giving me performance metrics, and not just that. So at least television and digital as a medium is also gives you creates a great link. Like there are technologies, like I'm sure yesterday you should have seen the Silver Push presentation, which Silver Push is trying to bridge the gap between television and mobile. So I think we as marketers, we need to invest in more and more technologies, which is trying to help bridge these gaps between medium and put a put a definitive measurement. But having said that, that's what we are doing right now. But I do agree that that doesn't mean integrated campaigns does not work. They work, but it's very difficult as of now to put a specific measurement to each one. So therefore, we are focusing right now on these two mediums, but in the long run, we would want to experiment that and see how that also performs.
Sujit, your views on that?
So obviously integrated marketing, there's no debate about it. I mean, there's enough science and regression analysis around it to show over the years it's worked for most categories and brands. But I wanted to approach it slightly differently. If I see my days in FMCG, sales and marketing, when we started off, the way integrated marketing used to work is that you would launch a brand and you would do a large television and print or radio communication. But would that alone get you sales? I don't think any product manager would do that. What would you need to do to get sales? You would have to do a lot of stuff at the point of sale, which means you need to put up a poster, dangler, and if you have the budgets in your brand, you do in-shops and you put promoters, right? Point I'm trying to say is that there is a role of demand creation, which is important, but that alone won't suffice. There is something needed at the point of sale to trigger the sale. Because I don't think too many ads can be created where the ad is so powerful that the consumer sees the spot and rushes out of the home to buy, right? So you need to create an impression in the consumer's mind as well as do something at the point of sale to convert. Now what happens is for certain categories, and I'll speak for banks, where a lot of the conversion is now happening online, you will need to, as I said, the large-scale television advertisement to create the disposition. But you will also have to be at the last mile purchase saying, if I want a credit card online and I don't want to visit a branch and stand in a queue, or I don't want to spend 30 minutes with a nosy, troublesome DSA, I can sit at the comfort of my home or with the mobile in my palm and I can complete that sale. So I think this digital in a big way, at least for a lot of categories where you can complete the sale online, is working as a very important point of sale trigger. And just as information, as a bank now, more than 50% of our all transactions, all sorts of transactions possible, more than 50, much more than 50%, is happening only on the computer and the mobile, which 10 years back would have been sub 10%. So that's the sort of migration that we have seen in the last 10, 12 years. So both playing different roles, both playing important roles.
Sure, thanks. Since we had only 30 minutes, I think we are only left with about 5 minutes. So I'll kind of, more in more than one way, I think the summation is really that overall there are different strokes for different folks, which means depending on your category, where your brand is in the journey, you kind of figure out which medium will work and how. And you have your own evaluation metrics to kind of figure out whether that's working or not, because there is no single currency today to kind of be able to do it cross-channel for you. So you have to evolve that as you go.